Welcome to the Radiant Visalia podcast. Join us at one of our two services, 9 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. Download the Church Center app or visit our website, radiantvisalia.com, to stay connected with us. All right, enjoy.
There is a heavenly city that I'm compelled to find.
All right. Back into Proverbs 31. Didn't Monica do such a wonderful job last week on the words and the heart? That preach I got to hear on Sunday night was just a real gift to me, and I'm really grateful for her and her life. So today we're gonna jump back in, and I want to share with you another thing I discovered about Proverbs 31 that made me breathe a deep sigh of relief. And it's that whenever I would read this passage, without really even thinking about it, I would imagine this sort of account of this woman's life as like a day in the life of, maybe like a week in the life of, but that's kind of where I was at. It was like a week in the life of this woman. Has anyone else read it like that? And I would read it like that and instantly feel exhausted and, just producing more of that I will never be this kind of woman feeling. And what I have discovered in study is that this actually is an account of the course of a life of a woman of wisdom. And when I read that, I just instantly started to cry. It was like, over the course of a life. Okay, that feels more doable, And so I want to read it that way and put ourselves in that place. So I want you guys to play this little game with me and just raise your hand if this may apply to you. Raise your hand if over the course of your life you might work with fabric at some point in some way, okay? Raise your hand if over the course of your life you might transport food somewhere, okay? What about cooking? Over the course of your life, you may cook at some point. Might not be good, but you may do it. Over the course of your life, you may buy property at some point somewhere, okay? Over the course of your life, maybe you might plant a garden. Maybe not a vineyard, maybe a garden, maybe a plant. Over the course of your life, you may plant a plant. It might not stay alive, but you planted it. Raise your hand if over the course of your life you might stay up late working one night. Wake up early to work one morning because you have something to do. Over the course of your life, you might sell something. Could even be something used you have that you don't want anymore. You might sell it over the course of your life. Raise your hand if over the course of your life you might make something from scratch. Could be anything. You may make something. Or purchase bedding over the course of your life. I'm not even saying make bedding because, back then they didn't have the stores. Now we have the stores, so I think purchasing it counts the same. You may purchase bedding over the course of your life. You might deliver something over the course of your life. Or maybe over the course of your life, you might wear something nice one time, like a really nice outfit. Just maybe this one time over the course of your life, you might wear fine linen. Who knows, right? So you guys are doing it. You're a Proverbs 31 woman. It's in the bag. Isn't that a relief, though? This is a picture of a woman over the course of her life in God and through the different seasons of her life in God, which look very different. This isn't a prescription for us right now this week to get going. This is the inventory of a godly woman over the course of her life, and that just sets my heart free, This is a sketch of all the ways that God's grace and mercy has grown this woman over the course of her life. Wow. This is, and who knows, the way that God's mercy and grace may grow you might find yourself doing something years from now you never thought you had the capacity to do or were capable of. That's the power of God in our lives as we live in his grace and mercy. So this is a picture of a woman who delighted in God, and all this stuff came about from her life, and she believed that God's will and living in his will and living in step with him was the good life, and she wasn't fooled into believing that something else was the good life. She wasn't seduced by other good lives. This is a picture of a woman who lays down her life. She doesn't live self-centered, but she lives God-centered, and she lives other-centered. And that is the way to live, because in the Bible it says everything else that we do will burn up, right? Anything that we do that's not out of love, anything that we do that's not that first place Jesus is calling us to love him and love others, will be like chaff. It will blow away. And this is a woman, I think, who got that. And so she loved God and loved others. This is a snapshot of this, of a woman, and it's showing all these different ways that she worked. And it's also speaking to her attitude about that work and her heart in the work. Kind of what she believed about the work that caused her attitude in the work. Does that make sense? So we're going to pull out a couple scriptures today that talk about this woman's work. And we're going to talk about work today. Work, right? Okay. So in Proverbs 31:13, it says, she seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. This woman's working with her hands. This is talking about the work of her hands. It's also talking about the willingness of her heart to do it. So that's an attitude of her heart, is there's a willingness to do the work with her hands. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens or maid servants. This is where years ago I told Travis, I said, see, she had servants. That's how she pulled all this off. And he was like, yeah, and she didn't have electricity. And I was like, all right, I guess you have a point there. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. How does she do that? She's dressing herself in God, which affects the willingness of her heart, the attitude of her heart. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. Proverbs 31:17 through 19. And then in the end, it's talking again about her hands. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. 31:31. So we're talking about work, and we're talking here more about kind of like the ordinary daily work, the things we do with our hands, the work of our hands. And in all of these scriptures we just read, there is a Hebrew word called nathan, and it's interchangeable for work or give. It is to give or to do or to work is kind of the definition of this word. But I love that it is actually called to give. Like the definition of work, this work we do with our hands, is to give. And when I read this definition, it's very long, and it's just full of all of these words describing what this type of work is like. And as I read it, I felt like in my own life, I was seeing these little scenes flash before my eyes of all of the ways that I do these words. And I'm wanting the same thing to happen for you. So I'm going to ask you guys to close your eyes, and I'm going to read like a billion words right now. And they're all like activity works. They're words. They're all these working words, these giving words, these doing words. And I just want you to let God like show you pictures, memories of the things your hands have done, and let him bring those things to mind, okay? Nathan, give, put, deliver, made, set up, lay, grant, suffer, yield, bring, cause, utter, send, appoint, shoe. Ever shoot anybody? I have. Shoo, get out of here. To give, put, or set, bestow, grant, permit, ascribe, employ, devote, consecrate, dedicate, pay wages, sell, exchange, lend, commit, entrust, give over, deliver up, yield produce, occasion, report, mention, stretch out, extend, to put upon, to assign or designate, to be given, to be bestowed, to be provided, to be entrusted, to be granted, to be permitted, to be issued, to be uttered, to be assigned, to be set, be put, be made, be inflicted. Add, apply, be, cast, cause, charge, come, commit, consider, count, cry, direct, distribute, do, fasten, frame, hang up, have, leave, let out, lift up, make, occupy, offer, ordain, pay, perform, place, pour, print, pull, put forth, restore, send out, shoot forth, sing, strike, take, thrust, trade, turn, utter, weep, withdraw, yield. Did you guys see yourselves doing any of those things? You guys do any of those things? This is the kind of work, this is the type of giving that we're talking about today. And I think the incredible thing about this is that I just feel overwhelmed with the graciousness and generosity of God. That the things that are small in this world are big in His eyes, and the things that are big to this world are small in His eyes. And all of this activity that we do with our hands, all the ways that we give, count to Him, and they matter. And they're the thing, you know? This is our work. It doesn't matter what season of life you're in. Some of you might feel baptized in this kind of work right now, you know? Some of you may feel like this load's light right now. But over the course of our life, this is how we give. This is how we do. At home, at work, in relationships that we love. This is how we give. We know that that our relationship with work, that in the beginning there was creation, it was good. God put us in charge of the earth to steward it, to lead it, to take care of it. So that mandate to take care of was given to us, and it was healthy and right and good and connected to relationship with God. And then enters the serpent and the fruit and deception and sin. And what ends up happening is there's a fall, there's a split, relationship with God is broken, and what is one of the things that is cursed is work, right? And so now work's going to be hard. It's not going to be as easy as it was before. And we have broken relationship with work without God. And now because of redemption, we have a relationship with God, which can restore our relationship with work. But we still live in this fallen world with broken relationship with work, and we're fed all day long with different messages, right, about work. And so in this broken relationship with work, I think what we can do is we can make it the thing. And we can look to work to try to tell us who we are, to try to find worth or identity, or to try to feel like we belong somewhere. We can go to work for that. We can also go to work to try to find success, to try to prove who we are, to try to be great. We can take our longing for greatness to work. And we can also go to work to find fulfillment or satisfaction. And that can be kind of this driver in our lives. We can have that sort of driver on our backs in this area of work where I am driven in work and I'm overworking myself because I'm looking for work to do these things for me. And we can end up either on the side of discouraged or disillusioned with work, or despising work, or just kind of doing what it takes to get by if that doesn't work for us. Or we can throw ourselves into work and we can be like, actually, I kind of thrive in these type of systems and I am going to prove myself and I am going to be great. And we can put that on and kind of play the system and be driven and overwork ourselves. I feel like we will kind of fall on either side, this realm of work. Then Jesus shows up on the scene, and he changes everything like he always does. And thinking about this whole idea of work, I've just been captured again with the upside down kingdom and with how different God does things, you know? And so in every other culture of the world, without Jesus, this pursuit of greatness is how many people serve you, right? It's sort of this accumulation of what you have and power, and the mark of a great person is how many people serve them. But in the kingdom, it's upside down, and Jesus talks about how if you want to be great, then you become the servant. And he didn't just talk about it, he modeled it, and he did it, and he showed us how to do it. In Matthew 20, starting in verse 25, there's these sons of Zebedee who were walking with Jesus and had a relationship with Jesus, and their mother came along, like all good mothers who want, the best for their kids. And it says, but Jesus called them to him and said, so the mother had gone to Jesus and requested that her sons could sit on his right and left in heaven. It was basically like, make my sons great, give them the greatest place. And it says, but Jesus called them to him and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came, not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And I feel like this is familiar to us, and we have heard this, and so we can lose the gravitas of this statement, and even just the hugeness of a God who is like enthroned in heaven, ruling over everything, who lays down his life and comes down to like be with the ants and then like serves them. What? No other leader, no other anyone would ever do that. Only God would do that. His kingdom is upside down. He says, you want to be great, get low. He says, you want to be first, go last. And I feel like because we live in a kingdom where that's not the law, it's easy to like get pulled out of that. It's easy to get enrolled into this other idea of what it means to be great, what love looks like, what success looks like. It's easy to be caught up in that. And then it's easy in seasons where we feel baptized in this kind of giving to feel like our lives are very insignificant and small and they don't matter. Because we're just doing small things in small places that no one sees. And it's kind of the dirty work, and it's not valuable. And that is not what God has said. So I just want to remind us of this morning. We don't live in like this kingdom, We live in a different kingdom that has different rules and a whole different value system. And that is good news for us today. It's news that liberates us. It's news that brings value to our lives. It's news that sets us free. So Jesus came as this serving king, laying down his life. And so because of Jesus, we can have this restored relationship with work. We can do work with God because he's working too and he's giving too. And when we work with God, we will find that our worth and our identity and belonging is set in him, that success and greatness, we go about getting there a different way, and it's an easy way that we can all do, so that's another relief. And fulfillment and satisfaction is found in him, and so if that value is set in place, if we're in a place where we're believing I'm not valuable because of what I do or who I do it with, but I'm valuable because I was made by God and saved by God. Like I'm not valuable because of these achievements or because I'm successful or because I'm married or because my husband treats me this way or because my kids are making it. I'm not valuable because of those things. I'm valuable because of the way that Jesus has treated me. Then we can see that Jesus did everything necessary to settle every wrestle in our soul. And we can work from this settled place of worth and significance, that it's already in the bag, that it's a done deal. All of that is set in me. And so I can work from this free place. I can give of my hands from this free place. And that changes my heart in the work, right? I believe that that's what this woman had. The very first thing it says about her is that she was worth far more than rubies. She was worth more than the most precious stones, this woman. Her worth was set, right? And then it goes on to talk about the work that flows from her hands and the way that she gives her life away, and it comes from this place. And so when we are coming from this place, it changes our heart in the work, it changes our attitude in the work, and it changes the way we work. And it changes the atmosphere in our lives. It changes the atmosphere in our homes. It changes the atmosphere in our relationships. What about the kind of work we do? Is some work better than others? Or is some work more godly or spiritual than others? When I say the Lord's work, what do you think of? Do you think of the paid pastor, the worship leader, people in vocational ministry? Could your vocation, whether you're paid to do it or not, could your work, the work of your hands, the way that you give every day, be the Lord's work? In the 3rd century, the bishop of Caesarea was a prolific writer and early church historian who argued that there are 2 ways of life. One is the perfect life, and the other is the permitted life. The perfect life is contemplative and limited to monks, nuns, and priests. The permitted life is mundane, secular, and reserved for the rest of us, soldiers, farmers, businessmen, and those of who just have jobs. And this thinking went largely unchallenged for over 1,000 years until Martin Luther led this Reformation. And he challenged this idea by insisting that the Bible taught something different than that. Praise the Lord. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you might declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but you now are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy." And so he took this stand and basically said, all believers can pray and be heard by God. All believers can handle the word of God. All believers are spiritually equal in Christ. There is no hierarchy. All believers are able to come before God in Christ. There's no separation now. And all believers are called to be a witness of the gospel wherever they are and whatever they're doing. Woo! He said, "The works of monks and priests, however holy and arduous they be, do not differ one whit in the sight of God from the works of the rustic laborer in the field or the woman going about her household tasks, but that all works are measured by God by faith alone." Have you ever thought doing your household tasks in faith? What does that look like, to do it in faith? Indeed, the menial housework of a maidservant is often more acceptable to God than all the fasting and other works of a monk or priest, because the monk or priest lacks faith. Furthermore, he said, "The maid who sweeps her kitchen is doing the will of God just as much as the monk who prays, not because she may sing a Christian hymn as she sweeps, but because God loves clean floors." The Christian shoemaker does his Christian duty not by putting little verses on the shoes, but by making good shoes, because God is interested in good craftsmanship. William Tyndale said, "If our desire is to please God, pouring water, washing dishes, cobbling shoes, and preaching the word is all one." Do you believe this? That you're doing the Lord's work? And that he's called you to do what you're doing in faith, and then that's what pleases him? If this is true, then the season you find yourself in is the Lord's work for you. Single, married, mom, career, even inactive seasons of sickness or disability or maybe being laid off from your job, it's all the Lord's work because he's calling you to do it in faith. And he's calling you to do it from this place of value in him. What does Jesus ask you to do? What is he asking you to learn? Who is he asking you to love? There's ministry in the everyday mundane. When we know our worth, we see our work as God's work, as the Lord's work, we can do it wholeheartedly. When there's not so much pressure put on our work to be something that it can't be, then we can be different in the work and we can do it wholeheartedly. Colossians 3:22 through 24 says, "Don't work only while being watched in order to please men, but work wholeheartedly, fearing the Lord. Whatever you do, do it enthusiastically, as something done for the Lord and not for men, knowing that you will receive the reward of an inheritance from the Lord. You serve the Lord Christ." It's like this single focus. Whatever I do it to serve the Lord. I work for him. My reward is from him. He sees me. I'm not unseen by him. So there's no small task, and it means that nothing is insignificant because God sees it all and rewards it all. And that is so good. Isn't that good news? I love this, and Monica talked about this in worship, but it says Jesus showed the full extent of the Father's love by doing what? There's this spot in the Bible where it says Jesus showed the full extent of his love by raising the dead, by healing the sick, by coming and dying for us. What do you think it is? It said Jesus showed the full extent of his love by washing the feet of his friends. God incarnate got down on his hands and knees and did the job a slave would do and washed dirty feet. And it says that was the most loving thing he, that showed the extent of his love. And that's incredible. He wasn't too good for the dirtiest job or the menial work. And he knew that work was powerful, It was valuable. It was powerful. It mattered. It counted. It was big. It wasn't small. I can often lose sight of this. I feel like I'm in a real intense season right now with 5 kids. And even just like the noise level in my house, or just like the constant like talking or like cute singing, but like everyone's doing it at the same time. And it drives me insane, and I want to take pencils and like puncture my eardrums. Just like can't get relief sometimes from the noise, from the constant need, from the constant mom, 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 Not to mention just the workload, like just the constant workload and the feeling like if I sit down for an hour, like everything here will go down in flames. It is a hamster wheel that I live on, and if I get off of it, trouble happens, And so I fall into bed very tired most nights, And a lot of what I do, I think, is like unseen or like unappreciated. It's like not often that my 4-year-old thanks me for washing her clothes or, whatever it is. And there was this time that the girls were like writing things they were thankful for on these little red hearts. And I remember Remy brought one to me one day, and it just, in her little chicken scratch, she had written on it, and it says, she washes my clothes. And it was on this red heart. And I took it into my laundry closet, and I pinned it to the side of the wall next to the washing machine. And I said to myself, It's for love. This is love. And I'm so thankful for that reminder next to my washing machine, because there are a lot of days that I want to kick the washing machine in and I want to quit the work because I'm tired of it and I don't like it, you know? And all of us have work we do that we don't like or don't appreciate, you know? You could name your chore you wish you could like burn off the face of the earth and never have to do again. And even in our jobs, you know, teaching or nursing or whatever it is that you're doing, there's mundane and menial in all of our work and all of our jobs. And there's people that we're serving that maybe are mean to us, or, you know, or kids' parents that come and chew us out for something we didn't even do. Or, you know, we do work we don't like, and we're not always thanked for it. And I just feel like this sweet reminder from God that is so powerful is that he sees every give of our hands. And it is big and not small. It is powerful. It matters. It's eternal. Like what is done in love, what is done, he says, no greater love is this than someone would lay down his life. So every time we love, every time we lay down ourselves and give to someone else or to God, we're doing something eternal. And it matters. It's for love. Philippians 2, 5-7. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus Christ, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, but rather he made himself nothing. He made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant and being made in human likeness. When we get this, when this captures our heart, that God made himself nothing, that God came to serve us, that God came to wash our feet, that God came to love us in that way, that God came to wash us and make us clean. Oh, it sets us free. And it's so empowering. I think it empowers us to do the giving he's called us to do. It gives us that big vision. I'm not on this planet to be served. This whole deal's not about me. I'm here to love God and love others, and that is the good life, and that is the eternal work. That's the stuff that's not going to burn up in the end. That's the stuff that matters and counts. That's the stuff that's big. And that's what Jesus did. And so we see with this woman that in all the spheres of her life, she's a servant to others. She's not selfish. She's also not selfless. Like that's the other thing I love in this passage is we see her taking care of herself as well. She doesn't, she's not like, I'm dirt. It's like that balance of worth and work. It's like, I know who I am. I know how Jesus has treated me, so I can care for myself and live in that place of value. I can also be empowered to love and serve and give, and I can find joy in that place. So she knows who she is, and she gives herself away. And she knows that she's seen by God when she's seen by no one else, and she knows that he is the one who rewards her, and she knows that he is her reward. And so I just want to charge you guys to fight the good fight in this area, because we live in a kingdom that loves the extraordinary, exceptional stuff. We live in a kingdom that loves the sexy, that loves the big, that loves the unique, that loves the glittery, flashy, epic stuff. That's what our feeds are full of, right? Exceptional people, exceptional stories, exceptional homes, exceptional clothes, exceptional bodies, exceptional faces, exceptional marriages and children and jobs and ministries and whatever it is. And I think it's a fight to live in this place that I am who Jesus has made me to be and saved me to be, and I am this woman who is full of worth and dignity and value in God, and I can give my life away and be empowered in that and find joy and contentment in doing that in whatever season of life I'm in whatever sphere I'm in, because of who God is and who he's made me to be. So to come out of this kingdom where exceptionalism is prized and the ordinary and mundane is despised, let us be women who are found in community, celebrating the ordinary and mundane and cheering each other on in all of the small acts of love and giving that we're called to do every day. And let us be women that are cheering each other on so that we're not losing heart in the work he's called us to do. Whatever that looks like, it's going to be different for all of us. And let us be women who are cheering each other on in these ordinary things. And as we see each other laying down our lives, let's champion that in one another. Andrew Wilson said, we're shaped by a culture that overvalues exceptional things, often because it sells stuff. And that's the truth. And like, just raise your hand if like your life does not look sexy. Like, my life does not look sexy. I'm sorry, it just feels like the only word to describe, you know? So let's celebrate the ordinary and let's rejoice in the ordinary together, and let's be a community of women that champion each other in loving God and loving others and laying down our lives. The power of a normal everyday life, like the faithfulness and dignity of putting one foot in front of the other. So many of the things that we're doing that we love and care deeply about, they take a life to do. It's not microwave stuff, you know? A lot of it in our marriages, with our children, and in relationships with friends, and in ministry, in whatever the calling is on your life, are a million small choices and decisions and faithfulness over years and years. It's not a quick fix, you know? And I think that the time we live in is like, oh, you know, someone did this and it just blew up overnight, or, you know what I mean? And I think like our hearts kind of want to be like enticed by that. Yet much of the work, like the eternal work that we're putting our hands to, is like a slow burn over a life. And I want to like stay in the fight. And I need to be reminded that what I do for love, and it's eternal and it matters, so that I don't lose heart in it. Living in contentment, like right now, where I'm at in my life, I'm doing the Lord's work. Like, this is the sphere he's called me to, and right now today I can delight in what is. I can delight in it. I can do the long obedience in the same direction. And I can find God in the midst of the everyday, washing feet like he did. Here's the thing I want to end on, is that this Proverbs 31 is like this fruit counting inventory of this woman's life. And much of the things that are listed are ordinary things. And it's like over the course of her life, God's saying, like, stand this woman up. And in the list of things, none of her failures are listed, which we know she had because she's not a perfect woman, right? There were days she missed it. There were days she overslept. there were days that things broke down. There were days that she missed the mark. There were those days. Those days are not accounted for. God is so gracious and generous that he counts the fruit. And he's standing this woman up and he's counting the fruit of the ordinary, the mundane, all of those words that we read, all the ways this woman is using her hands to give and put and take and deliver and pour and print and hang and shoe and, right? All these things. He's saying, I count it all. I see it all. It all counts. the generous, just graciousness of a God who's not like looking to expose you or to remind you of where you failed, which we can be very good at. The gracious generosity of a God who's like, stand this woman up and bless her for all her hands have done, and count the fruit. And I want to hear that voice of God counting the fruit in our life. And I want to join with him. I want to join with him as a family. In my own life, I want to join with him. And at the end of the day, when I lay my head down on my pillow and I feel exhausted, I want to count the fruit. I don't want to lay down feeling like, well, I did all of that and tomorrow I have to get up and do it all over again. Yeah, it counted today and it counts again tomorrow, and it's eternal and it's for love, and God sees it and he counts it, and that is awesome. Not only does he count it once, but he counts it twice. And what I mean by that is, I read that passage out of Matthew 25 about the sheep and the goats, and God saying, there's this line where he says, whenever you feed the hungry, whenever you clothe the naked, you do it for me. It's like what we talked about in church a couple Sundays ago when Dave Holden said, he went to Saul and said, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he wasn't persecuting Jesus, he was persecuting the church. But to Jesus, it was one and the same, right? You're persecuting my bride, you're persecuting me. It's the same idea here. He's saying, when you feed the hungry, when you clothe the naked, me. And I read it, and for the first time I was like, oh, I feed the hungry every day. And I clothe the naked every day. And like, it counts to them, like it counts to my children. Like that laying down my life and loving them and serving them. It counts to them, and it counts like I'm doing it to Jesus too. It's a 2 for 1. Isn't that amazing? He's so generous towards us, guys. He's so generous, and he's counting the fruit. And I want to invite you to hear his voice counting the fruit in your life, and I want to invite you to begin to count it with him. To lay in bed at night and go, what did my hands do today? It's love. It's eternal. God saw it. It counted. And I want us to be women that live in this upside down kingdom where we can embrace these small things and know that they're big in God, and that these are the sexy things. Even though the world's saying, no, it's not. Even though the world's devaluing it. Not so with us. Finally, the Message version says, and I love this, first thing in the morning, she dresses for work. First thing in the morning, she dresses for work. Rolls up her sleeves, eager to get started. She senses the worth of her work, is in no hurry to call it quits for the day. Let's sense the worth of our work. Let's get up in the morning and dress for work. Let's get up in the morning and let God remind us, oh yeah, that's right, Lord. This is the kingdom we live in. It's a different kingdom than the one I read about on my phone. It's a different kingdom than the one I hear about on the TV. This is the kingdom I live in. Dress me for work today, Father. Remind me of who I am in you. Remind me of what's eternal. Remind me of what love looks like. Remind me of how you loved when you came. Remind me of how you laid down your life, Jesus. Dress me for work today. That is what will energize us in our work. That is what will empower our work. That is what will bring us to this place where we sense the worth of our work, and we can do it knowing where our reward comes from. So to end, we're going to break up in like 2s or 3s, and I just want you to like talk about this. I want you to talk about how you've related to this work that you have to do, to the ways that you give. I want you to talk about counting the fruit. Do you hear the Father counting your fruit? Do you count your fruit? Do you let it count? And then I want you to talk about the way that you've related to work, That's maybe not the way that we're going to relate to work in the kingdom of heaven. And then this last question is, are you dressed for work? Is there anything that you need to take off that's hindering you from doing kingdom work, from doing the Lord's work? Or is there anything that you need to put on to dress yourself for the Lord's work? And then I want you to pray for one another, okay? When you're done with that, you're released to go, or by 11 o'clock, you're released to go, okay? And go get your kids. I love you guys. Let's do this kingdom work together and champion each other on in it. Woo!
Thanks for listening. We want to be a resource for you as you walk with Jesus. So please connect with us at radiantvisalia.com. Until next time.
There is a heavenly city that I'm compelled to find. Oh, I love the flowers and trees and the smell of the grinding sea and all the beautiful things here in life. And I'm a pilgrim here on the side of the grave.